Assalamualaikum. My name is Professor Dr. Ashir Zia. I hope all of you are fine. I hope we will see you all on the 15th of September when the normal classes will start. Last time we will discuss the short stature, and this time we are going to discuss the tall stature. The definition of the tall stature is defined as height beyond 97th percentile. It means over 2 standard deviations of the mean for age and sex. We have to consider the age and the sex in the definition. Excessive growth is defined as an abnormally rapid growth velocity, which could manifest as height acceleration across 2 major percentile lines on the growth chart. So this is the definition of a tall stature when your stature is 2 standard above the mean. Growth charts, as you know, there are height charts, weight charts, BMI charts, proportionate charts when we measure the sitting height and the standard height and the sub-scale leg length, and there are also growth velocity charts. I have explained all these charts last time when we discussed the short stature. What are the predictors of height? Obviously genetics, the nutrition, hormones, especially the growth hormones, thyroid hormones, estrogen, testosterone, and overall health. If you are suffering from any chronic illness, your height will be affected. The growth spurt around puberty occurs around 2 years earlier in girls when compared to boys, but the boys tend to be taller when it begins. The girls usually start in their puberty by 11 or 12 years of age, and they stop growing 2 years before the boys, so that was the reason the boys have average taller height than the girls, because their growth stops 2 years earlier than the boys, because it started 2 years earlier. As far as the height predictors is concerned, is the mid-parental height. I explained the mid-parental height last time when we discussed the short stature. The target height for the boys, the formula we used is the father's height plus 13 plus mother's height divided by 2, and the target height for girls is father's height plus mother's height minus 13 divided by 2. The mid-parental height is an indicator of a child's genetic potential for growth. The value is plotted as adult height at 18 years, and the target range is 6 cm on either side of the target height. This becomes the target range, and if the child's height is within this percentile, it is considered as normal. Regulations of the growth. Normal human growth can be divided into 3 overlapping stages, each under the control of different factors. In number 1 is infancy, largely under nutritional regulations. A wide inter-individual variation in rates of growth in this age. Many infants show significant catch-up or cash down in weight and length. By 2 years, length is much more predictive of final adult height than at birth. So we can give roughly the height of a child if we measure them by 2 years of age. The second is childhood. Growth hormone and the thyroxine regulates the growth during childhood. Mini growth spurt with intervening stages, each phase lasting several weeks. Over years, a child will tend to maintain their centile position on height charts with a height velocity between the 25th and the 75th centiles during childhood. The third stage is puberty. The combination of growth hormone and sex hormones like estrogen and progesterone promotes bone maturation and a rapid growth acceleration, which is known as growth spurt. In both sexes, estrogen eventually causes epiphyseal fusion and then you stop growing when there is a fusion of epiphyseal ends. Assessment of growth to minimize error in the calculation of height velocity, that is centimeter per year. Height measurement should be taken at least 6 months apart using the same equipment and ideally by the same person, because there is a margin of error with different people and with different equipment. As I said, we measure the length in under 2 years of age, and that is used instrument. It is known as infantometer or neonatometer. From birth to 2 years old, supine length is measured ideally using a measuring board, which is also known as a Harpenden neonatometer. 2 adults are needed to ensure that the child is lying straight and the legs are extended. This part of the instrument is fixed and we will put the head end on this part, and this part is movable, and you make sure the child is lying straight and this part touching the heels of the child, and one side is the height length is given in centimeter, and on the other side the length is given in inches. So you can measure the length of a child under 2 years of age by using this neonatometer. After 2 years, you measure the height, and from 2 years, standing height is measured against a wall mounted or a freestanding standometer. This is known as a standometer. Your head, your shoulder, your back and your feet must be touching the wall to get the accurate height of a child. The child must be without footwear. Heel and the back and the shoulder, as I mentioned, and the head touching the wall, looking straight ahead. Gentle but firm pressure upwards applied to the mastoid from underneath, and you can get the accurate height. These are the growth charts for the boys, the blue one are for the boys, and the pink one for the girls from age 2 to 20 years. As I mentioned to you that we use standometer to measure the height of a child after 2 years of age, and these charts are showing the weight, which showing 3rd centile, 10th centile, 25th, 50th, 75th, 90th, and the 99th centile. And these charts are showing the height of a child, and this the bottom part showing the age 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to the 20 years of age, and this showing the weight in kilogram, and this showing the weight in pounds, this showing the height in centimeters and in inches, this showing the centimeter and inches. So for height you can measure in inches or centimeter, and the weight you can measure in pounds and kilograms. Similarly, in girls you use the pink charts, and these are for the weight and these are for the height. You can see the girls puberty start earlier when they start putting weight around about 12-13 years of age, and then they stop gaining height around about 15 to 16 years, and the boys keep on gaining height till the age of 17 and 18, and there is a 2 years difference of growth spurt between boys and girls. The puberty starts 2 years earlier in girls and as compared to boys. What is the etiology of tall stature? It can be familial, constitutional. Tall stature common cause as a familial. If your parents are tall and your family members or brothers sisters are tall, then you have a tall stature. Nutritional, exogenous obesity. Endocrine, we have precocious puberty, early stages, pituitary gigantism. There are many syndromes. One of the common one is a McCune-Albright syndrome, thyrotoxicosis, androgen, estrogen deficiency, because as I said, estrogen helps to close the epiphysis of the bones. So if there is a estrogen deficiency, the bones keep on growing. Estrogen resistance in males, when the end organs are resistant to estrogen. Testicular feminization, adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH cortisol deficiency, ACTH/cortisol resistance, and aromatase deficiency are the causes when they can lead to tall statures in children. There are chromosomal abnormalities like Klinefelter syndrome, where there is a 2X and Y, and this is 47 chromosomes. Fragile X syndrome, XYY syndrome, where there is an extra Y chromosomes in the sex chromosomes. There are some collagen vascular disorders like Marfan syndrome. There are metabolic problems like homocystinuria gives you a tall stature. Fetal overgrowth syndrome, when the maternal diabetes mellitus. Cerebral gigantism, which is known as Soto syndrome. Beckwith-Whiteman syndrome, Weaver syndrome, Simpson's Golgi-Behel overgrowth syndrome, and IGF-2 excess syndrome. The familial tall stature, most common cause of all tall stature seen in childhood and adolescence. Length of the child may be above average at birth. History of a very tall parents or a close relative is common. Marfan syndrome present with hypotonia, there is a joint laxity, the thumb sign and the wrist sign and the lax skin. This is a normal hands. In Marfan syndrome, they have elongated fingers and the arm bones. They can have ectopia lentis, abnormally flat cornea, blue sclera and iridodoneasis. They, as I mentioned, they have long fingers, rhinodactyly and also dolichocephaly. There is a malar hypoplasia, retrogenthia, downsliding palpebral fissures, high arched palate, crowding of the teeth, pectus excavatum or corneatum, scoliosis, aortic aneurysm, aortic regurgitation and the mitral valve prolapse. That may be the reason they die earlier, because they can have a rupture of aortic aneurysm. This boy is a normal and this is a boy with Marfan syndrome. You can see they have tall statures and the tall hands and fingers, and they can have a pectus excavatum when they have a funnel shaped chest, or when the chest is protuberant like a pigeon. They can have a pigeon shaped chest, which is also known as pectus corneatum. Homocystinuria can present with a tall stature. They can have a ectopia lentis, cataract, arachnodactyly, long fingers, pectus excavatum or corneatum like Marfan syndrome. They can have a genu valgum and pus cavus, high arched palate, scoliosis and crowding of the teeth. Most of these features are present also in Marfan syndromes. Then Klinefelter syndrome, where there is an extra chromosome. They can have a gynecomastia in males, and the testes are small. They have a sparse facial hair, poor beard growth. They can have a frontal baldness. As I mentioned, they have small testes and micropenis. There is a delayed pubertal development. They have undescended cryptorchidism, hypospadia, thin and tall. Usually they are thin and tall for their age, and the lower upper / lower segment ratio. They have long legs. They have a female type of pubic hair pattern. The tendency to lose chest hair. And the intelligence is mildly impaired. IQ is usually 15 points less than the average. They have a slightly feminized physique, but the stature is tall. They can have osteoporosis and the breast development present in 30% of the cases, with a poor beard growth. The genetic pattern is XYY syndrome. In this syndrome, the newborns are normal. Many adult males are normal. They have a tall stature, hypospadia or cryptorchidism, severe acne, radioulnar synostosis, mild or moderate mental retardation, but findings of an XYY karyotype in newborn does not predict intellectual function, but unlike other syndromes, the newborns are normal in XYY syndrome when they have an extra Y syndrome in their sex chromosomes. Soto syndrome equal to cerebral gigantism is unknown etiopathogenesis. They are transmitted as autosomal dominant and or autosomal recessive. They are usually large at birth. They have a rapid growth in the first year of life, above 97% for height at 1 year of age. Their rapid growth in the first 3 to 4 years of life. The arm span is more than 5 centimeters above height, normally negative up to the age of 12 years. They have irritability, feeding problems, delayed developmental milestones, especially impaired fine motor control. Their IQ is around 70. They have a mildly dilated cerebral ventricle, sometimes abnormal EEG. They have a poor intellectual prognosis, supposed to be at risk for hepatic neoplasm. I have seen few babies with the Soto syndrome. They are very, you can say, big babies, but unable to walk and stand or crawl, unlike normal children. Beckwith-Whiteman syndrome, they present with hepatosplenomegaly, nephromegaly, macrosomia, macroglossia, and omphaloceles. The macrosomia, macroglossia, and omphalocele is a diagnostic triad at birth, because omphalocele present at birth. They can have a renal malformation, ear creases or pits. They normally suspected from the ear creases or pits. They can have a facial nevus flammus, postnatal gigantism and asymmetry, high risk for the Wilms tumor. They have a transient hyperinsulinemia. This is omphaloceles and visceromegaly. They have hepatosplenomegaly, big babies. The next syndrome is McCune-Albright syndrome. They also present with tall stature. They have a polyostotic fibrous dysplasia. You can see in this slide they have a fibrous dysplasia of the long bones. They can have a caveolate spots like irregular border, unilateral or and asymmetrical. You can also see in this picture the caveolate spots. The endocrine problems are most common. They can have a hyperthyroidism and precocious puberty. They can present with scoliosis. This is a caveolate big spots, but in this there are also multiple caveolate spots in McCune-Albright syndrome. The next is a Weaver syndrome. They have a broad forehead and face. They can have ocular hypertelorism, prominent white philtrum. The space between the upper lip and the nose is quite wide. They can have a micrognathia when there is a small mandible, deep horizontal chin groove, and deep set nails. So these are the features of a Revers syndrome when they present with a tall stature. Simpson-Golodji-Bell syndrome is a very rare syndrome. They also present with a tall stature along with a large protruding jaw, widened nasal bridge, macroglossia, upturned nasal tip, coarse faces, bulldog-like appearance, supernumerary nipples, generalized muscular hypertonia, and congenital heart disease. Physical examination, you have to do a meticulous measurements of the parameters of height and weight, BMI, upper segment and the lower segment ratio, arm span, height / arm span ratio is essential whenever you presented with a child with a tall stature. Accurate plotting of the anthropometric measurements on the growth charts like height, weight, head circumference, sitting height, standing height, and the measurements of the arms and the legs, crossing height percentile between infancy and the onset of puberty always warrants further evaluation. Specifically look for the signs of obesity, signs of precocious or delayed puberty, dysmorphism, stigmata of specific disorder known to be associated with tall stature. Tanner sexual maturity rating, which is also known as SMR, should be done in all children presenting with a tall stature as a routine practice. Tanner is a sexual maturity in which we see the development of the breast, development of the axillary and the pubic hair, and the development of the penis and the testes, and development of the vulva and vagina in girls. Maneuvers to assess for tall statures: hands and the feet together, hypertrophy. They can present with a hypertrophy of one side, so you have to compare the two sides. Unilateral growth arrest, one side is smaller than the other side of the body. One arm may be longer than the other one arm, or one leg may be shorter than the other one, so you have to measure and compare the both arms and the legs. They can have a genu-valgum, they can have a genu recurvatum or pus planus when they have a flat feet. Bend over and touch toes, they can present with the scoliosis like in Marfan syndrome, homocystinuria, Soto syndrome, NF1. They can have a kyphosis with scoliosis as above in pituitary gigantism. Kyphosis is a forward bending of the spine, and scoliosis is the lateral bending of the spine. You can check the mobility. In Marfan syndrome, they have a hypermobility, and limitations of the extension is present in homocystinuria. They have a long fingers, which is known as arachnodactyly, is present in Marfan syndrome, and they can have a tremors, which are present in hyperthyroidism. How to investigate? If you suspect Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, you have to measure the glucose, insulin, renal ultrasound. If you suspect the maternal diabetes, then you measure the glucose and the insulin level in the child. If you suspect growth hormone excess, then you have to measure the growth hormone IGF-1 and IGF-BP level 3, and pituitary MRI scan. In hyperthyroidism, if you suspect, you have to measure T3, T4 and TSH. For homocystinuria, you have to measure the homocysteine level in the blood and methionine level also. In Klinefelter syndrome, you have to measure the LH and FSH, testosterone level and karyotyping. If you suspect XYY syndrome, then you have to do a karyotyping. In Marfan syndrome, the diagnosis is mostly clinical, but you can do a fibrillin-1 gene mutation. For precocious puberty, if you suspect a central precocious puberty, then you have to do a bone, measure the bone, check for the bone age, LH, FSH, estradiol and testosterone level, growth hormone analog and growth hormone stimulation test. If you suspect a peripheral cause of precocious puberty, then you have to do a bone age, the 17-alpha hydroxyprogesterone, human chorionic gonadotrophin, estradiol, testosterone level, and the cosintropin stimulation test. These are the abbreviations used up in the chart. How we can manage these patients? So as far as the management is concerned, obviously is the management of the cause. Reassurance of the family and the patient is the key to the management of a normal variant tall stature. The use of the bone age and a careful assessment of puberty status to predict adult height. Journal supportive discussions on the social acceptability of this condition. I have seen girls are more obviously worried if they have tall stature because they feel shy in the class if they have a rapid growth spurt as compared to their friends. Even though treatment is available for girls and boys with excessive growth, its use should be restricted to patients with a predicted adult height more than 3 standard deviation above the mean, which is 78 inches or 198 centimeter in male patients and 71 inches or 180 centimeter in female patients. And there is an evidence of significant psychosocial impairment for those with the extreme tall familial height or those with the Marfan syndrome. Sex steroid will cause early epiphyseal and growth arrest and will accelerate puberty. Oral ethanol estradiol at a dose of 0.15 to 0.5 milligram per 24 hours until cessation of the growth occurs has been used successfully in girls. If necessary, a progestational agent can be added after 1 year of unopposed estrogen. In boys, treatment should begin before the bone age reaches 14 years. Testosterone anathate is used at a dose of 500 mg intramuscular every 2 weeks for 6 months. Treatment of growth hormone oversecretion. The goals of therapy to remove or shrink the pituitary mass, to restore growth hormone and secretory pattern to normal, to restore IGF-1 and IGF-BP3 levels to normal, to retain the normal pituitary secretion of other hormones and to prevent a reoccurrence of the disease. For well circumscribed adenoma transaphenatal surgery, the likelihood of surgical cure depends greatly on the surgeon's expertise as well as on the size and the extension of the mass. The goal of treatment is to normalize growth hormone level. Growth hormone levels less than 1 milligram per ml within 2 hours after a glucose load, and serum IGF-1 levels age-adjusted normal range are the best tests to define a biochemical cure. If surgery failed to normalize growth hormone levels, then medical therapy and the radiations are alternatives. Tumor growth is arrested in 99% cases by radiation, but it has delayed efficacy in lowering the growth hormone level. Hypopituitarism is a predictable outcome in 40 to 50% of cases after 10 years irradiation. Somatostatin analog highly effective in the treatment of patient with a growth hormone excess. Octreotide suppresses growth hormone to less than 2.5 milligram per ml in 65% of patients with acromegaly and normalized IGF level 1 levels in 70% of cases. For cases that have both growth hormone and the prolactin oversecretion, dopamine agonists such as bromocriptidine should be considered, which binds to the pituitary dopamine type 2, which is called D2 receptors, and suppresses growth hormone secretion. It is generally used as an adjuvant medical treatment for growth hormone excess. Its effectiveness may be additive to that of octreotide. Thank you very much. I hope this will generate your interest in endocrinology and in also genetics. If you have any question regarding my 2 previous lectures, like on short stature and tall stature, you can ask me any questions. My mobile number is 0300 8440973 and my email address is rzr56@hotmail.com, and my WhatsApp number is same 0300 8440973. Please ask any question if you want, or if anything is not clear. I hope you are all having a good health. Thank you very much. Khuda Hafiz.